Welcome back to Proxy, everybody, and today we are going to be diving into the High Elves of the Old World and looking at their forces and special rules. So, unlike the Dwarf video, we're going to start off and we're just going to talk about the High Elf special rules because this is actually something that I haven't looked at too much. It's not like the Dwarfs where I kind of poured over it over a couple of hours and stuff like that because, I was a Dwarf player in Warhammer Old World or Warhammer Fantasy back in the day, and I only really dabbled in High Elves. High Elves were like my secondary army, really my tertiary army at one point when I picked up Empire as well. They really fell behind, and that was just because I honestly didn't have the money back then to, keep up with all the Warhammer 40K and, Warhammer Fantasy stuff. All my, you know, quote unquote allowance money, in high school and junior high school and stuff like that was already going towards Warhammer. So I really didn't have the money for them, but I really thought they were cool. And a couple of my friends had them, so every now and again, if they were going to the shop and they didn't want to play something, we'd swap armies and stuff like that. So I know a little bit about them, but I've played against a lot of high elves, and I kind of know what they're about. So even though I wasn't a high elf main particularly, I'm very familiar with some of their old rules. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the special rules that the high elves have this edition, because just like the Craftworld Eldar, they are very special rules dependent. You really need to get the most out of their special rules to be able to win with them. They're a very highly skilled army, and I know some people will laugh at that because in 8th edition they were anything but. You rolled 4 dice for your, or however many dice you wanted really, for your magic, and you would just obliterate entire units. That's not the case in Warhammer Old World, and that wasn't the case in prior editions unless you were using some insane characters like Teclis. So, the good news is, no Teclis. You don't have Teclis to worry about. So, and the, Archmages that you do have to worry about, they do have weaknesses, which we will get into. And we'll talk about how other armies can counter those kind of units. Okay, so the first special rule on the list is Arrows of Isha. So any bow carried by a model with the Arrows of Isha special rule has the Armor Bane 1 and Armor Piercing characteristic of -1. This is actually really good because in past editions, the the main thing about high elf shooting was it didn't have any armor penetration. A lot of the bows were just simply, AP 0, strength 3. And that was their biggest weakness. If they went against anything with a lot of armor, they were unlikely to do any damage, especially against armies like Bretonia, which they especially suffered against because, Bretonians were not only really resistant to missile fire, but they were also really fast and, oftentimes could get the first strike on a lot of high elf units. High elves did have always strikes first, but unless they're running, max sword masters or, massive amounts of Phoenix Guard, you were rarely able to actually win combat. At least in my experience. So that's a cool thing. Now, it's probably only going to be available on things like Sisters of Avalorn or, your handmaidens and things like that, but it's still good. It means your characters with their bows are going to be doing a little bit more damage. Blessings of Azurian. Model of the special is a 5+ ward save against any wounds suffered that are caused by the flaming attacks. If I'm not mistaken, this is on Phoenix Guard, but we'll look into that later. That's a really good special rule. I don't know if it's actually as good as the old Phoenix Guard special rule, but we'll look into that because I can't quite remember if they have a 4+ invul or a 4+ ward save still. Dragon Armor gives them a 6+ ward save against any wound suffered, and a wizard can wear it without penalty. So that's pretty good. And you're mostly going to be seeing this kind of armor, of course, on dragon wizards, dragon mages. Elven Reflexes gives them a +1 to their initiative modifier, not the mount itself, but the model, to a max of 10 during the first round of any combat. Now, the thing with high elves is you want to win combat in one round. If you can't win combat decisively in one round enough to, basically make up for the rest of it, you're going to be in trouble. Just like Eldar. You want to hit hard, you want to hit fast, and you want to cripple the unit mostly so that they can't fight back effectively in that round of combat. You want to be able to kill enough models so that they're not going to strike back at you because you're very flimsy, right? Toughness 3 across the board pretty much, except for the characters, which are, barely above that. Toughness 4, still really low for this game. And typically you have light armor, which is a 6+ save. You may have a shield, but it's not going to do that much. So being able to strike first is really important. Iltamar armor or barding. Model with this special rule may reroll any rolls of 1 when making dangerous terrain tests. In addition, a wizard can wear the armor without penalty. Okay, so this is pretty good. If you guys don't know, essentially High Elf Cavalry needs to be incredibly fast to flank opponents. You are going to want to use your cavalry for this function. They're not like Bretonnian cavalry who can just kind of charge right into a unit in the front, win combat, and just keep pushing the enemy back. They're a little bit more tactically advanced. So with High Elf Cav, you really need to use the flanks and stuff like that because they're not going to be good in a frontal assault. They just don't have the durability. Ilthamar weapons can reroll hit rolls of 1. So natural roll 1, you can reroll the hit roll, which is good. It's kind of like, it's the same thing as, kind of, well, not the same thing, but it's very similar to a lot of the stuff that other armies have with rerolling hit rolls. So that's pretty good. You have Lilith's Blessing. Once per turn, a model with this rule may reroll a failed casting result. So the thing with this ability is it's really powerful. Being able to reroll something for free is really good. And that's why a lot of high elf players are going to be, taking the level 4 Archmage or Dragon Mage and just spamming magic at you because they can reroll a thing. And that's just, it's once per turn, right? So it's pretty good. Very, very good to have this on a high level wizard as well because if you, roll low on something, you can reroll it. Lion Cloak gives you +1 to your armor save against non-magical shooting attacks. Pretty good, but that's only going to give you a 4+ against shooting with the models that have it, and very few models actually have this rule. You're mostly going to be looking at White Lions and White Lion based stuff. And White Lions are good, don't get me wrong, but this doesn't make them really durable. Just keep that in mind that they have the same durability as Empire Greatswords, but Empire Greatswords always get a 4+, and these guys only get a 4+ against shooting. So just keep that in mind as well. Martial Prowess. So a unit with this special rule can make supporting attacks to its flank or rear as well as the front. This is an interesting ability because typically you don't want to be flanked, but this allows you to attack in the flank. So it's situationally good. I would just say, really this only is good for, spear troops. So if you have a spear unit, you can make supports in the, attacks in the flank. It's not great. And I'll tell you why. If you're getting flanked by something and you're striking last against that flanker, they have a long charge and they have the initiative on you, you're really not going to be able to make up for that by being able to attack in supporting ranks. It may dull the combat enough so that you can survive it, but you're not winning it. So it's a decent ability. It's not like before, though, where you could essentially, attack in an additional rank. So that did get a little bit of a nerf. Valor of the Ages, a unit with a special rule may reroll any failed panic test caused by heavy casualties or being fled through by a friendly unit. That's actually really good. I like that ability because, High Elves are one of those armies. You're going to want skirmishers in front of your forces to make sure that you don't get hit super hard by things like, Bretonnian heavy cavalry, or something like Dragon Ogres, which are absolutely brutal. So having this ability is pretty good. I don't really know what units have it yet. I'm going to have to check it on that, but it is a good ability if it's something that's more common among the elite units in the army. Okay, now they have the Lore of Safri, which we'll go ahead and talk about later, and the Armory. We'll go ahead and talk about those things later. So now that we know the special rules, let's go ahead and let's go up to the units. Let's get to the units here. And of course the composition, the army comps, which is going to be very similar to what we've seen before. So army compositions, you can take 1 High Elf Prince or Archmage per 1,000 points, those are your lords. You can take 1 Dragon Mage or Handmaiden per 1,000 points as well, which is pretty good. And then you can take High Elf Nobles and Mages as heroes. I think the Mages are going to be useless. I think the only thing you want to be taking is Archmages. Just my personal opinion. It seems like level 4 wizards are where it's at. You get that +4. You get, more points to spend on spells and different things, which increase your damage even more. So I think that's the way to go. Same thing with the Dragon Mage, right? You're going to want to go with the Dragon Mage if you do spend points on a mage. Your core choices, you have a good list of core choices. Spearmen, Archers, Lothran Seaguard, which we'll talk about. I think they're easily the best core choice. Lyran Reavers and Silverhelms. Silverhelms are also pretty good. The fact that they count as core means you can actually make a pretty, convincing full Cav High Elf army. But I don't think it's going to be good because of the aforementioned reasons. They're very fragile. They need to really be used in conjunction with other things. But you can definitely take them, and it could be a really cool themed thing. And if you're a really good player and you know how to position your forces well, you know, Silver Helms in combination with the Lyran Reavers and stuff like that, and then, for your rare choices, you can of course have, where are they? Chariots, Lion Chariots, and other stuff that could be really fun and flavorful. Dragon Princes, etc. Okay. Special, you can take White Lions, Swordmasters, Phoenix Guards, Shadow Warriors, and Tyrannok Chariots. Those are your special choices. You can take 1 unit of Dragon Riders per 1,000 points. If your general has the Cracian Hunter Elven Honor, you can take 1 Lion Chariot of Crace in this category instead of in the rare category. If your general has the Sea Guard Elven Honor, you can take 1 Lothran Skycutter unit. The rare choices are Sisters of Avalorn, Lion Chariots of Crace, and of course Lothran Skycutters. You have the Flame Spire and Frostheart Phoenix. The ones that don't count as character mounts per 1,000 points. That's pretty decent. You can take up to 2 Great Eagles. These things have always sucked. I don't know whether they're better now, but in the past they've always been awful. They've always been complete dirt. So, and it's kind of sad because they've been trash and everything. Even in Warhammer, even Warhammer Total War, they suck. They've just always been bad and everything. You have 2 Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers per 1,000 points. I actually think these aren't good either. And the reason why is because they're really just not durable. They only have 2 bodies on them, and less wounds means you're going to die easier, and they just don't have the damage output, I think, that you can get from a similar amount of points. But we'll look into those as well. Also, they're rare choices, so they're like taking away from your, Sisters of Avalorn or Lion Chariots and stuff like that. Of course, you can take mercenaries and allies as well. I think the ally system still bristles my beard because I don't really care for it that much. I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. They're uneasy with Empire of Man, but for some reason they're the best of friends with Kingdom of Bretonnia. Like, and we all know that in the lore, they've had their disagreements, so that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But it is what it is. They're pretty good with the Wood Elf realms. Also makes sense. You have characters that are very Wood Elf sympathetic. So you can take, of course, a battle standard for your army, battle standard bearer. You definitely want this in your list. And correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think you can actually now take a High Elf Noble on a chariot or on a horse with the War Banner, which you could not do this in previous editions of Warhammer Fantasy. So that is kind of interesting. So, High Elf Noble can take a mount, and you could still put the battle standard on them, which is kind of cool. Okay. High Elf Lords. You get a Prince and a Noble. The Prince is just your Lord choice. Has really high initiative, really good attacks, actually has the strikes first special rule, which is insane. Does also have the Valor of the Ages special rule, which, by the way, does apply to the unit they join. So remember when I was talking about Valor of Ages, being able to reroll panic checks? That's really good for essentially fleeing through your own units so that you don't have to take, or you get to at least reroll the panic check. And they are leadership 10. Now, something I have noticed about Warhammer Old World is that a lot of the lord choices are just straight up leadership 10. That goes for a lot of the armies, and the lesser leadership factions like orcs and goblins are like leadership 9. So leadership isn't really much of a problem this edition unless you roll really bad, even for the lower leadership factions. Unless you're going for something like a pure goblin army, you're going to have leadership 9, you're going to have leadership 10. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong again, but I believe princes used to be leadership 9, but I could be wrong there. Okay, so the options that this guy can take, either a prince or a noble. Remember, the noble's the one that takes the battle stand bearer. You can take, cavalry spears. If mounted, they give you +1 strength on charge, I believe. You can take an additional hand weapon, which gives you an extra attack, a great weapon, which gives you strength and armor penetration, but remember, you're also striking at initiative 1 with this thing. Now, the cool thing about this is that it actually, with strikes first, it actually negates the penalty for a great weapon. So instead of striking at initiative 1, actually just striking your normal initiative, which is still 6. So, that's pretty good. You might want to consider actually taking a great weapon with your lord. You can take a halberd. It's okay. It's not the best in my opinion. Just lacks the cutting power of a great weapon, but does give you that strikes first. So if that's really important to you, you can have that. And then if you're mounted, you can have a lance, which is just a better cavalry spear. I think it gives you +2 on charge instead of +1. You can take a longbow or a bow of Avalorn. So the bow of Avalorn is really expensive, and realistically, even though he has a really high ballistic skill, I don't know if you want to buy that unless you have extra points. But it could be something that's good. It's like one of those things, if you have 12 points left over somewhere, you might as well spend it on something. Give your lord a bow. He has ballistic skill 7. Can probably hit most things on the battlefield, and you might actually kill a model with him because the bow of Avalorn is pretty good. You can take a shield. Now, here's the thing as well with the shield. It's going to be useless except if you're just taking a normal hand weapon. So if you want a lord that's just there for the leadership, give it a shield, give it full plate armor, and just hope it doesn't die, essentially. Because these guys start out with light armor, so you do have to buy the full plate. I would always buy the full plate anyway because it's only 6 points and you're improving your armor save by 2. So that's pretty massive. You can take a single Elven Honor, which, gives you bonuses. You can also be mounted on many different mounts. So we'll look at the mounts later. You can be mounted. It does cost additional points. A prince can take up to a total of 100 points of magic items, and a noble can take 50. So just something to think about. And then, of course, you have the Ilthamar weapons, which we talked about, giving you rerolls of 1 to hit. And a lot of the times you're going to be hitting on 3, so that's pretty good. All right, so those are High Elf Lords. Probably want at least one of those in your army leading a unit. You got your High Elf Mages. You have your Archmage and regular Mage. They can also be mounted, and you do want to mount these characters. Absolutely. I believe they can also be mounted on dragons, but I could be wrong. We're going to check that later on in the video, but we'll take a look at that. An Archmage is level 3. They can be upgraded to a level 4 for 30 points. There's no reason why you wouldn't want to upgrade to a level 4. It's +1 in your casting, and I believe it gives you additional spells to cast as well. So you definitely want to do that. You can take Battle Magic, Elementalism, High Magic Illusion. These choices are going to be based on the type of army you have. At the moment, Elementalism seems to be the best, because you have a great number of debuffs and also damage spells that can keep enemies from charging you altogether. Again, you're a high elf army. You want to be able to slow down your opponents and outmaneuver them. So it seems just kind of like it goes hand in hand with elementalism. But we're gonna check those things out later on. Obviously, these things aren't good in combat. They're mages, but they're really good at casting magic. They're one of the best in the game. And if you look at their abilities, Lilith's Blessing gives you that reroll. They also have access to the lore of Sapphire, which is the High Elf specific lore, and Valor of the Ages as well. Dragon Mages. These are the mages on dragons. They're only level 2, so you can only upgrade it to a level 2, but it comes with a dragon, which is really good. Now, a lot of players have been saying, well, this is basically unkillable because you give it the right weapons and war gear and stuff like that. It ends up getting a lot of extra durability buffs. It has draconic scales, which count as full plate armor, which is really good. You can put items and talismans on top of that to give it additional ward save, I believe, as well. You have dragon armor on it, which we've all seen dragon armor. We've read it. It gives you a ward save already. So these guys are really, really tough. So what's their weakness? Well, if you look here, they have Impetuous. So if they are within charge range of an enemy unit, they have to declare charge if they roll a 1 through 3. pretty easy to do, right? Half the time they're going to do it. So, a lot of times players will say, oh, well, they're just going to stay out of range and cast spells all game. Well, these guys have a pretty big charge range. You can move up a unit, like if you're playing dwarves, you can have a single, lone slayer out there. Just walk up, a dragon slayer. Fitting name. He's going to die, right, if it charges, but he'll at least kind of be there to bait the dragon in so that you can shoot that dragon in the face with a lot of attacks. And again, it's only toughness 5. That's the other thing. It's only toughness 5. It's a sun dragon. It's one of the lesser dragons. So having something that's toughness 5 out there against things like handguns or drake guns, if you have iron drakes, that can easily do a lot of damage. Had somebody in the comments of my last video talk to me about that, and I totally agree. Having a couple units of those can definitely put this guy down. It does have 6 wounds, but if you're ignoring their armor to a good degree, they're not going to make all the saves. And even if they do, they're going to be in a bad position now. They're going to have to fly back, and they might be in a really poor position, especially if you have cannons to back it up. So dragon mages are good, but they do have this impetuous weakness. Now, the thing is right, I believe archmages can also take dragons, but we're going to be looking into that later. I think the dragons they can take are much more expensive than 275. All right, so scrolling down, we have the Handmaidens of the Everqueen. These are like your range specialists, but for some reason their ballistic skill is exactly the same as the Lord. So it's good, but it's not super good. These are a hero class, though, so I guess these are slightly better than the nobles. Yeah, and basically just, they can take heavy armor, they can purchase magic items, they come with a Bow of Avalorn, which is pretty strong bow. They have a Handmaiden Spear, which sucks. I mean, they get a little bit of extra initiative with it when someone charges. They're already initiative 6, though. I mean, yes, they will get to strike first, but it's only with 2 attacks. At strength 4, AP -1, it's just not that great. They're mostly going to be wanting to stick with a ranged unit, like a Sisters of Avalorn unit, on a hill in the back, and just shoot. And the reason for that is they have the Horn of Isha. So you can use this once per battle. You take a leadership test until the start of your next turn. You can re-roll. Okay, so you gain a +1 modifier to both their hit rolls and their wound rolls. That's really good on high elf units, especially bows, which have a lower strength. You're getting +1 to hit and +1 to wound. This actually turns things like Sisters of Avalorn into a decent range unit. So if you are thinking of taking Sisters of Avalorn, my advice would be take a Handmaiden. They're really good for that. But they're not good in combat, so don't try to put them in a Spearman unit or a Lothran Seaguard unit. It's just probably not worth it. I know it's very tempting to put this in Lothran Seaguard and say, oh yeah, this is going to be great. I'm going to be hitting extra and getting extra strength and stuff. But realistically, the combat ability of this is so low that you probably don't want her in that unit. Okay. Oh, character mounts. Okay, cool. Here it is. We have character mounts. So, princes and nobles may be mounted on an elven steed, a barded elven steed, or any of these, right? Tirnoch chariot, griffin, moon dragon, princes only, star dragon, princes only, and a great eagle. So the dragons can only be mounted by the lords, obviously, the princes. But the nobles can be mounted by griffins. And griffins are pretty good too. An archmage or mage may be mounted. Oh yes, okay, so I was correct. Moon dragons or star dragons, and this is really, I think, what people are using. They're not really using the dragon mages too much because, again, impetuous is a real weakness. They're picking up an archmage and just spending the points for a moon dragon and just getting a bunch of extra, kind of attacks, and it's just nasty. So how do you counter something like this? Well, there's a couple things you can do as dwarfs. There's a couple things you can do with other armies, but my advice against it would be just, continuously put pressure on it with things like cannons, if you have any artillery or anything like that, if you have any kind of magic, if you're an army that relies on magic, take something that may be able to take this thing out. But it's going to be hard, and I think for the most part, the reason why people are talking about this so much is because it's something that the development team of Old World kind of overlooked. They wanted people to have powerful kind of characters on mounts, but they made them a little too powerful because they didn't give people the ability to kill them easily. So if you look at things like cannons, which in past editions ignored all armor, in this edition they're not really ignoring armor. They're only at AP -2. So, you're getting a pretty decent save, 5+ save against those attacks. And, unless your opponent like rolls really good or has some really good like special rules, you're not going to really be able to just kill it with a couple of cannons. It's going to take several turns to be able to do that. But anyway, that's what it is. It is what it is. If you are running high elves, it's probably good to have an Archmage on a Moondragon. Save yourself some points. I think the Star Dragon is good, but you don't really take the Star Dragon for the combat ability. You take it for the mobility. And, it's a big giant monster that your opponent has to kill. And if it doesn't kill it, it's going to just be casting spells all game long. And in the late game, it can make a difference with late game breath attacks and terror checks. Okay. You can have these different honors. I don't know what these honors technically do, but there it is. Alternatively, a Prince, Noble, Archmage, or Mage with and then you can mount them on different things depending on what honors they have. So we'll look at those later. But typically, I don't think they're that worth it. But anyway. Okay. Now we have the stats of the mounts. I think pretty standard. 9 movement for a light elven steed. Has 1 attack in combat. Swift stride, which means you get to roll 1 extra dice when charging and pick the highest. You have the barded elven steeds, which have counter charge, which I think actually don't quite know what this does, but oh, you know what it does now that I think about it? It's when somebody charges you, it's like the Bretonians have. You can declare a counter charge as your charge reaction, and then you get to charge as well. You kind of meet them halfway. First charge, Ithamar Barding, and Swift Stride. So these are pretty good. The Barded Elven Steeds are pretty powerful. But again, it's Elf. So you're looking at something with decent armor, but it's not going to be as heavily armored as other factions, and you're going to still be at a lower toughness. You have the Ulthman Militia, and these are basically either Elven Spearmen or Elven Archers, and they're basically under the same kind of thing. So what you have here is the Elven Spearman is 9 points. That's pretty expensive for this stat line. Weapon skill 4 is nice, ballistic skill 4 is nice, but it's never going to be used for the Spearman. And you're really fast, you have good initiative, but you only have 1 attack. Not that, standard line infantry is going to have this, so it's not a big deal. But for 9 points, for something with, thrusting spears, line armor, and shields, I don't know. They just don't have a lot. They're good at holding things, kind of, but they're not the best at it in the game. So that's something you should think about. The archers, I think there's just better options for these guys. They are 10 points a model, and they just have longbows. They have no armor whatsoever. So anything that shoots back at them is going to kill them in droves. They're not going to get an armor save at all. And, here's the thing also to consider. Dwarven Quarrelers have, I know there's different special rules and stuff that they have, but Dwarven Quarrelers cost 10 points. No, they cost 9 points, I believe. A Dwarven Quarreler costs like 9 points. Is it 9? It's like 9 or 10. It's something around this, right? And they have heavy armor. You can, of course, give them shields, and they have longer range weapons as well. I think these... Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the weapon range is the same. Longbows. But still, they just punch much harder than these guys, and they're more heavily armored. So they're better in combat as well. And these guys will just get mowed down in close combat. So I don't think they're worth the 10 points you spend on them. That's just my personal opinion. I probably wouldn't take archers. Unit of Spearmen can have the shield wall ability at 10 points per unit. This is actually pretty good. This makes them good at holding ground. So if you want to just hold ground with the shield wall ability, 10 points per unit is a steal, especially if you have a unit of 20 of them. It's half a point per model. That's great. Elven archers can take light armor. Okay, well, it makes them 11 points, so it makes them even more, more expensive. Elven Spearmen have Valor of the Ages, which is cool. But they can replace it with Veteran at one point in model. Veteran's good, but for High Elves, it's good. I would say it's good. It's a good buff to the unit, but you're making your models more expensive, and this is a holding unit. It's not a unit that's going to be, dealing damage or, doing anything like that. Elven Archers can also be Veteran, which you probably don't want on Archers anyway. Can purchase magic items up to 25 points. Again, the magic standard thing is not going to be relevant for these guys because these guys are chaff units. So you're probably not going to want to do that. Now, the special rules are really where this kind of makes or breaks the unit. You have Close Order, Elven Reflexes, Martial Prowess, Regimental Unit, Valor of the Ages. Elven Archers have Close Order, Detachment, Elven Reflexes, and Valor of the Ages. So the Archers are the detachment. Archers can combine with Spearmen to do some, kind of stand and shoot reactions if the Elven Spearmen get charged. So it's okay. I wouldn't put a lot of points into this because there's so much in these, the forces of the High Elves that are so much better than these guys. And I just don't really care for them that much. But that's my personal opinion. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about these guys. I've never been sold on them, even back in the day, and they still, in my opinion, disappoint a little bit. Okay, let's go to Lothran Seaguard. So these guys already just come at 11 points. They are armed with hand weapons, thrusting spears, warbows, and light armor. So they're armed with the spears and warbows, so they have both. They can take shields for an additional point. You do want to take shields on these guys. You can give them a full command, like always. You can give them magic items. Again, probably don't want magic items. They have Close Order, Elven Reflexes, Martial Prowess, Naval Discipline, and Valor of the Ages. The reason why these guys are good isn't necessarily because they do both the job of the archers and the spearmen, right? They do a little bit of chip damage, and they hold the enemy in place. The reason why these guys are good is because of this ability. A unit of Lothran Seaguard may use this special rule when it makes a stand and shoot charge reaction, which is what you're going to be doing with units like this. A unit that does so can make a stand and shoot regardless of how close the charging unit is. That is already really good. That's a really powerful ability. Once the shooting, and there's more, guys. Of course, it's a high elf unit, so it's going to have multiple special rules, special rules on top of special rules. Once the shooting has been resolved, the charge unit may make a free redress. Okay, so yeah, the charged unit, that means you're being charged, may make a free redress of the ranks maneuver, after which it will hold and await the charging unit. My God. Okay, so this may not seem like a big deal, the second part, to a lot of you. This means the full unit can line up in 2 ranks, right, and shoot all their bows, because they have volley fire, I believe. I think the warbow itself has that special rule, so don't disregard that, but I think warbow has volley fire, so you can fire in both of your ranks, so you can make your full amount of attacks or close to it. Yeah, I think actually volley fire, now I think about it, it's the second rank can fire, and also I want to say 3 out of 5 models in each subsequent rank, but again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Old World is not something I'm a master of yet, but I am reading more of the rules and I am getting most of the rules down. Okay, so basically you can form up into 2 lines. You take 20 of these guys, you can form 2 lines of 10 right in the middle. You have these guys in front of the rest of your army. They're going to hold the enemy in place while your flanking units, kind of get on the flanks and surround your enemy. So you get charged, you shoot them with your full amount of attacks, then you go back into Close Order, you get your rank bonuses and all that, your enemy charges in, and because you have thrusting spears, you are attacking in multiple ranks, right? You're attacking in 2 ranks. You still have weapon skill 4, of course, which is whatever, but, the Seamaster having a greater ballistic skill actually comes in handy. So yeah, these are great. Units that are fleeing, that are already engaged in combo and charge, or have been joined by a character that does not have the special rule, cannot use this special rule. So that is an important thing to note. And remember what I said about the Handmaiden, right? You can't use the special rule if you're joined by a character. These units really don't want to be joined by a character. I think, though, there's an upgrade that allows you to use the special rule. I think it gives you naval discipline. I think it's one of the honors, but we're going to look into that a little bit later. But this is a great holding unit. Stand and shoot also, I believe, counts as, you know, combat resolution. So you make that attack with all your attacks. You're going to kill a couple models with it. So that gives you a couple more combat res to work with. And it just makes sure that your unit holds for longer. Your opponent is not pushing you back. And you get to make those flanking attacks and stuff like that. I think this is a great unit. And also it's 11 points, guys, right? It's 11 points. It's only one more point above an Elven Archer. And you get a bunch of extra stuff. You get light armor. You get spears, right? You get this great naval discipline special rule. Where's the special rule in the archers? Do they have one? Nope. They do not have it. They have nothing. Absolutely fucking nothing. You know, it's like, yeah, they're just not good for the points. I mean, why are they that expensive? You know, I say drop these guys by a couple points a piece, and then you have, you know, cheaper options that you could be like, oh, you know, yeah, Lothar and Seaguard are just better, but these guys are much cheaper, so they do a better job at just holding in the conventional way, and that's all I need them to do. But if you're only paying 2 more points a model, I mean, why not just go for this, right? Or 3 points if you have shields, but I mean, I think these guys are well worth the 12 points a model. They're really cool. They're good. Okay. White Lions of Chrace. 14 points. Now we get to the expensive stuff. So these guys are your typical, you know, great weapon combat will. They have Cracine Great Blades. I'll actually have to check to see if that's an actual great weapon or not. But they have heavy armor, which is, again, it's decent, but it's not the best. Means they are more fragile. They do have toughness 3, they're elves, but they have strength 4, which is really good. You can have a full command on these guys. Of course, you can replace Valor of Ages with Veteran. Not sure you really want to do that. I actually, in general, guys, don't think that the Veteran ability is worth it. I think Drilled is okay, but if you have a unit with high leadership and you can use your general's leadership of 10, I really don't think it's that big of a deal. You know, not being able to, you know, having to take a leadership test to march, it's just not that big of a deal. And most of the time, you're not going to really care too much about that anyway. They do have the Cracian Warriors ability. Unit with the special may be joined by your army's general or by a character with the Cracian Hunter Elven honor. Okay. Alright. I don't know what that exactly does. Oh, may only be joined. Okay, so these guys can't be joined by a lot of different characters. So, except if they're your general or by the Cracian Hunter Elven honor. Which is fine. You're probably going to only want to have your general in this unit anyway. They have the Elven Reflexes, of course. King's Guard, which we'll read in a second. Lion Cloak, which gives them that +1 armor to range attacks. Non-magical, of course. Move through cover is good. Means they can move through terrain unhindered. They don't get the -1 to movement. They have Open Order, Stubborn, and Valor of the Ages. I'm just going to say this right now. Open Order sucks for this unit. It means they don't get the +1 combat res. They're going to want that combat res. So the thing with these guys is they're probably a unit that is going to just be purely based on damage. They want to go in there, they want to hit you hard, they want to kill enough models and keep killing. Because remember, they're really high initiative. They want to keep killing so you'll never get attacks. That's the whole idea behind this unit. That's why it's open order. It does make them a little bit more mobile and able to kind of change their, you know, their frontage a little bit easier. But for the most part, they're going to be wanting to deal mega damage. Kingsguard, a model with this unit that has been joined by the Army's General, can issue and accept challenges in the same manner as a character. This is the same thing as the Hammer thing. Should your General leave the unit, loses the ability. This is good. I think this is great. It means you can attack characters. It means that possibly, you know, enemy unit champions and stuff like that will be dead, right? Because you can issue and accept challenges. And also it just protects your general from getting challenged ever. Like, unless your opponent has an ability that can single out an enemy character and basically, you know, force that character to attack them, which I don't think there's something like that in the game, but I may be wrong, then you just accept with these normal guys, and it's business as usual. You're just going to cut down a bunch of models. Yeah, this unit's good. I think it's a good combat unit. It's a generalist combat unit, does a lot of damage. We are going to check out the Kracian Great Blade as well, but it's a pretty good weapon if I'm remembering correctly. They also have Stubborn, so if they do get charged for whatever reason and they lose, they can fall back in good order, and hopefully, if they don't get caught up with, they can charge the enemy unit afterward and, reap some vengeance. Swordmasters. This was the unit that was basically the most broken unit in Warhammer Fantasy for a long time. Let's see if they're still broken as hell. Well, they have hand weapons, they have the Swords of Hoeth and heavy armor. Full command, basically all the same stuff the normal units can take. The Blade Lord can take magic items. You're not going to want to take magic items on a one wound character. I don't care how cool it may be. You're going to want to take them on real characters. These guys can just basically get attacked once and die. So you definitely don't want that. They have Cleaving Blow, which we'll read in a second. Close Order. Again, this is Close Order, gives them combat resolution. Deflect Shots, which I think gives them, armor against range attacks. We'll see. Elven Reflexes, which means they get +1 initiative, which is good. And they have all the regular stuff, except the only difference is they have Ilthamar Armor. And I think that gives them a 6-up ward save, if I'm not mistaken. I'm already forgetting. But yeah, I think it gives them a 6-up ward and magic resistance -1, which is really good. They have the Warriors of the White. So these guys have a bunch of special rules, and that's what really makes them good, right? So Cleaving Blow gives them. Ooh. Okay, this is really good. If a model with this special rule rolls a natural 6 when making a wound roll, and it is struck a cleaving blow, enemy models whose troop type is regular infantry, regular cavalry, heavy cavalry, or war beasts are not permitted an armor or regen save against cleaving blow. Ward saves can be attempted as normal. That is huge. Regen cannot be taken. Regen cannot be taken. The attack wounds automatically. The special rule cannot be used. So if you have any kind of, spells or anything like that that allows you to wound auto, give you auto wounds or something like that, it doesn't work. Deflect Shots gives you a 6-up ward save against any wounds suffered that were caused by a non-magical shooting attack. I think Ilthamar Armor must do something else now I think about it, but gosh, yeah, we'll check that later. But it's a good ability. It's just not like game changing or anything. Deflect Shots is decent. Again, not game changing. It just gives them a slightly better durability. Warriors of the White Tower. This unit may only be joined by a High Elf Mage or by a character with either the Warden of Safri or Lore Master Elven Honor. These guys are kind of like loners. I mean, you really don't want a High Elf Mage in this unit anyway. Just because of the nature of melee combat, you don't want mages in melee or around melee typically. So, but, basically just saying you can't join any character to these guys. These guys are fierce. Now, they did lose an attack. They used to have 2 attacks apiece, I believe, back in the day. So they did lose an attack, but they're really still very strong. They strike first. They hit hard, especially against heavy infantry. Things like Iron Breakers who have a great armor save. They're going to cut right through that. But they do have to roll a 6. So there is that. Okay. Let's see how many points they are model. 14 points. Yeah, they're the same as the White Lion, so it's not too bad. They're not too expensive. Phoenix Guard. These guys are the more expensive version of the elite troops. They have ceremonial halberds. They have full plate armor, which means they have a 4+ save, which is good. Okay. Here's where they got nerfed. So they used to have 4+ ward saves against everything, and now they do not. They only have a 6-up ward save against any wound caused by non-magical enemy attacks. If it's magical, they don't even get it. They have full plate, not heavy armor anymore, but they don't have the ward save. Now, they do cause fear, and they are just veterans. They just have it built in, which is nice. It's nice to have if it's built in. They have Close Order, Blessings of Azurian as well. Yeah, I mean, okay, so here's the thing about this unit. I actually don't think it's that good. I may be wrong here by saying this, but I don't think it's that great. Because they don't do a whole lot of damage. They don't do the damage of things like Swordmasters and White Lions. At least it looks like, just looking at their datasheet. And they're supposed to be like more durable. But they're not durable enough. They're basically great swords with a 6-up ward. And I'm paying a lot of extra points for that. You know? So I don't know about these guys. Yeah, they're leadership 9 as well, but you're going to have a general nearby in most cases. So, yeah, because these guys are leadership 8, right? You're mostly leadership 8 across the board. These guys have an extra leadership. But again, it's just not the greatest. Weapon skill 5 also. I mean, it's a little low. A little low for an elite elven unit. But we're going to have to see what kind of magic standards they can take, and we're going to have to definitely see the ceremonial halberds, and we'll check that out and see how good that is before we make our final judgment on these guys. But they're definitely not as good as they were before. Shadow warriors, these are your archers. These are your, kind of infiltrators kind of thing. So these guys are actually pretty interesting. I think you do want these guys because of their abilities. So they come with hand weapons, longbows, and light armor. You can give them full command, or sorry, not full command. You can give them a Shadow Walker for 6 points. I don't know if the Shadow Walker is really worth just the extra ballistic skill and the item. I just don't think it's worth it. I think just save your points and just get a regular Shadow Warrior for 14 and spend it on these, right? They can have Chariot Runners, they can have Feigned Flight, or Ambushers. So Chariot Runners, if you guys don't know, means they can move as fast as chariots. So they can move alongside chariots and move just as fast. That's really good. They can also get Ambushers, which means they can come on the board later. I wouldn't use this ability actually on them. I know it's good, but this is an archer unit. It's just not worth it to come in behind an enemy unless you're focused in melee combat for the most part. Because you're going to be trying to hit people in the rear and stuff. Ambushers is good. I just don't think it's that good with these guys. And then you have Feigned Flight, which is also good. I think that allows you to fall back and then regroup, if I'm not mistaken, automatically. Special rules, Elven Reflexes, Evasive. I think Evasive is just -1 to hit. Fire and Flee, which is awesome on this unit. They have Ilthamar weapons, which gives them that extra, reroll, which is good. Move through cover, obviously good on a unit that's going to be moving through terrain. Scouts, Skirmishers, Veteran, Warriors of Nagaryth. So we'll read the Warriors of Nagaryth in a second. It's not a big deal. But they have Scouts and Skirmishers, which means all of them can shoot, always. And Scouts, of course, means they can infiltrate. So really good unit. I think solid. 14 points is a little bit expensive, but you could have a unit of these guys and they could really kind of mess up your opponent. And just the same thing you can do with Dwarf Rangers, right? When I was talking about in my Dwarf overview, you can use these guys to block enemy units, slow them down, and then, use things like Fire and Flee to, like, just get out of there right away. Fire bows, flee into some terrain. If you flee right into terrain, you have move through cover, your opponent doesn't, so that really can mess somebody up if they take the bait. Warriors of Nagaryth, just a unit can only be joined by a character with the Shadow Stalker Elven Honor. Okay, Sisters of Avalorn. Sisters are pretty good. They have the Bows of Avalorn, which, again, they're good bows. We're going to read into that. They have light armor, of course, because why would they have anything? I mean, look at their armor. It's barely anything. But yeah, so light armor. You can have a unit champion, 6 ballistic skill. I mean, I could take it or leave it. I usually, if I'm not doing a full command, if this is a unit that I'm never going to have in combat, I rarely like to actually upgrade to the champion. Because if you look at the attack, it's like it doesn't have an extra attack. It just has an extra ballistic skill. Is that really going to come in handy that often to be worth this? I don't know. Like, if I'm short on points in a list, this is the first thing to go. But, if I have extra points, maybe I add it in. So they can have Ambushers and Stubborn. Both of these are useless on this unit. You don't want any of those on that unit. I don't even know why they added them in there. They do have the Arrows of Vicious special rule, which we kind of went over. Remember, the AP -1 and Armor Bane one? Really good. They have Evasive, Ignores Cover. Now, I believe Ignores Cover means they ignore the penalty to hit for firing into cover, light cover or heavy cover. Really good. Really good. Means they never suffer that modifier. Immune to Psychology, which is good as well. Ilthamar Armor. Again, who cares about that really? They're, they have crap armor anyway, for the most part. Ilthamar weapons, which is good, but they're mostly not going to be in combat. They have open orders, skirmishers, and strikes first. Okay, so strikes first, who cares? Again, this is irrelevant for this unit, but it kind of makes sense if somebody's charging with something, kind of crappy, like somebody's trying to charge you with some fell bats or something stupid like that. Being able to strike first with weapon skill 5, even at strength 3, if the opponent's toughness is really low, you can get some good attacks in with that. So it's not terrible, but it's not going to help you a whole lot. You're mostly going to be wanting to shoot with these girls, of course. Okay. I do really like those though. I think they're, for 15 points a model, they're actually really good to just sit on the backfield and just shoot all game. For 15 points a model. You can even just take 5 of these and you don't even need that many of them, and just hope to kill one model in each unit so that you can pop a rank bonus off of each enemy unit before they get into combat. You only have to take 5. It's the same thing with Iron Drakes. That's why I really like Iron Drakes. You only need 5 of them to be successful. So we'll talk about that in a second. But with Ballistic Skill 5, they're hitting a lot of their attacks. You're bound to kill at least one model. You have Illyrian Reavers who are fast cav, and they're cool too. I think they're pretty good, but they have nothing really exciting, right? They're just your basic light cav, weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 4. They're like an elven spearman slash bowman on a horse. They're very expensive though at 16 points a model. Now, the good thing about them, they can get scouts, but that's going to be an additional 2 points a model. They can have skirmishers for 1 point a model. I don't know. I don't think skirmishers is worth it on a light cav unit unless you're using a big unit of them, and you typically don't. I think. Oh god, and to take short bows costs 2 points a model. My god. Okay, so here's what I think about this unit, and again, I could be wrong, but I think this unit doesn't really have a lot of applications because of its high point cost. If you want to make them, horse archers, it's going to cost you a minimum of 18 points a model, which sucks. And they're really easy to kill, right? 1 wound, toughness 3, light armor. They do have cavalry spears, but again, you're going to charge into something, and because of the way combat works in this edition, they're going to lose combat resolution, usually, because they're light cavalry, not heavy cavalry. So if you hit a heavy infantry unit, it's just going to bounce. They're going to attack you back, kill you, and you're going to run. And that's it. So I don't really care for these guys too much. I think, if you want to use a unit of 5 with, kind of nothing except, just to break ranks and stuff like that, I just think there's better things to do. Now, these guys would be good if they had the ambushers special rule. I'd be like, okay, these guys are good because they have ambushers, but they don't. So, not a huge fan of Dealer and Reavers. But again, tell me in the comments what you guys think about these guys. I could be completely wrong. I just think I look at these guys and I'm like, okay, if they flank a unit, that's their goal, right? That's the job that they need to perform, the flanking. And they really don't have anything that flanks well, and they're not going to be able to break ranks unless you lose a couple models. Or unless you keep your full unit strength to 5. They're just not going to be able to break ranks that easily, right? So, I don't know. I just feel like that's not, because they don't have a high unit strength, so there it is. Okay, Silver Helms. These guys are more expensive than the Illyrian Reavers, no doubt. But the difference is heavy cavalry, they break ranks easier, so they're better at flanking. They have. Oh, okay. So they have Barded Elven Steeds. We talked about those guys, and they're pretty good, right? They have hand weapons, lances, so they're hitting much harder on charge, and they have heavy armor. Plus, they have Barded Elven Steeds, so they're actually getting a better armor save too. More of them are surviving. You're killing more of the enemy unit. You're going to be better able to use a unit of 5 of these guys to flank an enemy and wipe them, kind of win combat, help another unit win combat. So your Sea Guard are, kind of stuck into the enemy unit, and then you use this to, kind of wrap around the side and flank them. Okay. Take full command. I probably would take these guys just because, it does give you better attacks, right? These guys, the high helm, these guys like have these conical helmets that remind me of the Eldar. That's why I kind of like them a lot. They have the 2 attacks here, so you can hit a little bit harder with just for 6 extra points. I think you might as well do that. You know, it's not like the other upgrades, like the Sisters of Avalon, where you're never going to use, you know, the extra ability or the extra ballista skill, really. You have an extra attack in combat, which is, in my opinion, much better than just +1 ballista skill. And of course, you have Elven Steeds, which also make attacks, which of course are good. Okay, so, and they have the Ilthamar Barding, they have the first charge ability. Elven Reflexes, Close Order. I want to see if Illyrian Reavers have Close Order. No, they don't. They have Open Order. So that's another reason why they suck. They don't get the +1 combat res. And you get Close Order, you get the +1 combat res on this guy, on these guys. Yeah, these guys are good. I mean, they're pretty cheap too. And I believe, yeah, you can take shields for 1 point model. I think you do that. I think you do take shields because you have heavy armor. You have Barding, which is a 4+, and heavy armor, or excuse me, shields gives you a 3+. So you have the same amount of save as a Bretonnian Knight, which is good, right? That's a 3-up save is a decent save. You also have your Dragon Princes. Now, the Dragon Princes are just super elite, and they're just really strong, right? I mean, they hit super hard, but look at the cost. Really expensive. Terribly expensive. Jeez, you know, they do have full plate armor and shields. They do have the whole shebang here. They have a 2+ armor save. As far as their abilities, they can only be joined by the Blood of Calador Elven Honor unit. But they have Counter Charge, which is really strong. Dragon Armor is really good, gives them a ward save. Drilled, Elven Reflexes, First Charge. They are impetuous, which I think is going to turn a lot of people off from the unit. Because, you know, having to make a charge really sucks. But they are pretty good. Now, I actually, okay, here's the thing. I don't actually like Dragon Princes. I think for for the playstyle of the elves, you're not going to want to just charge straight forward into the enemy, and I think this is what this unit does. Especially with Impetuous, that's kind of what you want to do anyway, so I don't really like them that much for that. But they are pretty decent. They do hit hard. They just don't have, you know, and they have a bunch of special rules. I just think that this unit is really tough to use properly, right? Because they do have 2 attacks apiece also, but that means you really want to be taking a unit of 10 of these guys, and you want to just shove them straight to the enemy. And I don't think that's the best way to play High Elves, but that's, again, that's just me. They are cool models, though, if you can get your hands on them. Okay, chariots. I'm going to review my rules on chariots, but I think, for the most part, they're pretty decent in this edition. Because they don't auto-die if they get hit by something strength 7 or above, like they used to, so they're pretty good. The Tiranoc chariots are kind of like the archer versions. They have the longbows and they have, you know, cavalry spears, which are good. But this unit is a flanking unit. Now, one thing you have to also understand about these is you can take them in units of 1 to 4, but the most you're going to want is probably 1. Because they're very high points, and because they take up a lot of room, and because they do not have move through cover, it's hard to move them along the flanks. And there's also this really cheesy tactic that's out there right now called Wind Blast. They can just blast your chariot off of the board and automatically destroy it. I don't know whether this is going to be, you know, patched in the future or balanced out. I don't know, where they say, yeah, Wind Blast can't move an enemy unit off the board. But for now, if you run a huge unit of chariots like this on the flank, you're going to get Wind Blasted right off the table and destroyed. So do beware of that. I think these guys are good, but you probably only want to take 1 just so you don't get Wind Blasted. And people in competitive play are going to be taking Wind Blast quite a bit. But what about the Lion Chariot? Well, the Lion Chariot's a heavy chariot, so it actually breaks ranks a little bit easier. It's basically the same as the Tiranoc Chariot. You want to use it in the same way. It hits a lot harder. I actually think these things are worth the extra 50 points. But, you know, if you don't have the points for it, a Tiranoc Chariot is still pretty good. It's like a poor man's Lion Chariot. Lion Chariot really does heavy damage. As far as its abilities go, it just does much better as well. As far as it has fear, you know, has the Lion Cloak, a little bit more durable against shooting. Has Close Order, which gives it additional combat res. So the Lion Chariot's good. It just does cost the extra points, but it is really powerful. And I would honestly consider taking one in my list. I think it's a really good flanking unit. Like, if you don't want to take Silver Helms, I think this is the next best thing for 125 points, which is around the same cost, which is really good. Okay, I'm going to look up something real quick, because if I'm not mistaken, yeah, the Lothran Skycutters. Let's look at this, because I really have no idea what this unit is. So I just want to kind of look up what this is real quick. All right, so this is a heavy chariot, and sleek airborne chariots that rest upon a cushion of magic. This is really cool. I've never seen this unit before. It must have been an old unit that they used to have, but this is cool. So, a flying chariot. How awesome is that? It has Fly 10, Fear, Close Order, Elven Reflexes. It has a Sea Guard crew. So, it's basically a Sea Guard ship on land that flies. Epic. It's a Wave Serpent, guys. It's a Wave Serpent. This thing is really cool. Okay, so let's see if it's actually good, though. So what does it have? So they have hand weapons, cavalry spears, and short bows. So far, it's looking like it's kind of like light cav in the way that it does damage, but it comes with an eagle eye bolt thrower. So let's check this out. 24 inches. Oh, it's 25 points for the... Oh, okay, but it's still only 90 points, right? So this puts it on par. This is 115 points for this thing with the eagle eye bolt thrower. It is cumbersome, unfortunately, so I think that means it's -2 to shoot when it moves and shoots. That's not great. Yeah, this thing isn't good. Ballista skill 4, that means it's going to be hitting on 5s, 6s if it's outside of 12. Multiple wounds D3 is okay, but it's not great. AP -3 is really good, but it seems like this isn't a regular bolt thrower. I may be wrong, but it doesn't follow the bolt thrower special rules, I don't think. Because it's a different weapon. Oh, look at how cool this thing looks, though. Oh my god. That thing looks so cool. This is such a cool unit. This is like the rule of cool right here. It doesn't even matter if it's good. Like, I'm going to run this thing just because. Because look, it's being carried by a freaking hawk. Absolutely cool. I don't know if this actually counts as a bolt thrower. If it does count as a real bolt thrower, I think it's good because it means it has the chance to pierce ranks. But if it doesn't, if it's just a single strength 5, I think it sucks. And I think you don't take it, right? You just don't take this thing. You use its fly 10 plus your movement value of 2, your base movement value of 2 to move 12. And you just move it to kind of like pepper the enemy for 90 points. I mean, that's pretty good, and you just fly this thing into close combat, on a flank, just like you would a Lion Chariot. I think the Lion Chariot's a little more practical, but having fly means you can fly right over terrain, which is really good. So it just depends. This will get you to combat easier in terrain-dense boards, or, a board with, terrain on the flanks. Allow you to do some cool stuff with that, but it's not going to hit as hard as a Lion Chariot. So there's some considerations there. It's pretty cool, though. That is a cool model. You have the Griffin. The Griffin. So the Griffin is a monstrous creature. Has pretty... Okay, so is this the character mount? Or just the regular Griffin? Because it's not telling me it's base toughness, so... Why isn't it telling me it's base toughness? Does it not have it? Huh, okay. This must be the mount for 130 points. So you can mount your... So I guess you can't take a Griffin just solo dolo. So pretty good. +2 toughness, +3 wounds, so toughness 5, which on most, high elf characters, that's going to be pretty decent. 3 wounds, which again is good, putting most lords to 6 wounds. Fly 9, large target, which means you can see it over other models. It has stomp attacks, has terror, which is good. But there's a lot of things that are immune to psychology, and you're going to see a lot of people building immune to psychology auras in their armies, so don't expect this to be super good unless your opponent's unprepared. It has heavy armor, which is also good. And it has pretty good combat, right? Strength user, so strength 5, AP -2 on its wicked claws. Its serrated maw has armor bane 2, which is not as good, but it has multiple wounds too. So against characters, this is better. Against regular infantry, the claws are better. So it has kind of a weapon for each situation, which is really good. It is 130 points though, and I'm looking at the Griffin. This is one of the lesser flying mounts. I can't even. I think the dragons are going to be really expensive, but let's just see. Ah, they are. They're really expensive. So dragons of Ulthuan. You get the Sun Dragon is the most basic version, but even that's more expensive. That's 180 points. You get +4 wounds, so you're going to be getting 7 wounds on the Lord, 6 wounds on something that's not a Lord like a hero, but you're probably not going to be taking that on a lot of stuff. You get Strength 5, so not as hard hitting the Sun Dragon. But here's where we really get kind of to where your Archmages are going to be. Your Archmages are going to be on Moon Dragons. You get +5 wounds. So you're getting 8 wounds on this thing. My God. Forgot I. We're in an age of dragons, everybody. We're in an age of dragons. It does have a slower initiative because I guess it's bigger, so it's slower. It has more attacks. It does give you that extra toughness. It's 235 though. That's massive. So if you add that onto the cost of an Archmage, you're looking at a 400 point unit. So I just want to talk about that real quick because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, dragons are so OP." The Archmage, level 4 Archmage on dragon, OP, unbeatable. Yeah, but it's like 500 points. It's like 400, 500 points depending on what magic items you put. That's like 1/4 of your army is like one thing, right? Like even if that thing is casting spells all game and like ends up over the course of the game killing a whole unit of Iron Breakers, let's say, that Iron Breaker unit is cheaper than the dragon. Just let that sink through real quick. Over the 6 turns of the game, if you're shooting at Iron Breakers all game with magic and all sorts of other stuff, you kill the whole unit. You're killing less points than it costs. So I think people have to really kind of wrap their heads around this a little bit because, again, really scary kind of model, but you can kind of ignore it, you know? Like, you can kind of ignore it. It's not going to be able to kill something that's like really ranked up, like a big, beefy block of infantry. It's not going to be able to go in there and just kill all of them because if you look at the combat ability of these things, it is good. Don't get me wrong. Like D6 stomp attacks, and it gets, that's. But again, stomp attacks are at initiative 1, so you get to strike first before that. You have the wicked claws. It's just strength user AP -2, right? You get 5 attacks with the Moon Dragon. You get 6 attacks with the Sun Dragon. Your weapon skill is kind of high, which is kind of ridiculous in my opinion for a dragon, but there you go. That's high elves for you. And you do get a breath attack. But again, if you're in combat, you're not going to be able to use it, right? So I don't know. I just think you can ignore them. I think they're so expensive. They get to the point, and your opponent's probably going to want to give it a ward save. Your opponent's probably going to want to give it regen and want to give it all these special rules, right? Because I don't think they actually have regen, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Yeah, they don't have regen at all. And the Sun Dragon has Impetuous, but you're probably not going to be taking that one. Probably going to be taking the Moon or the Star. Again, they're good, but for that many points, you could have so much. I could take 3 cannons for less points, and over the course of those 5 turns or 6 turns of the game, I could probably end up killing this just through sheer weight of, you know, statistics. Statistically, I should be able to kill it with that many cannons over the course of 5 turns or 6 turns, whatever, right? So I just don't think these guys are as scary as everybody's making them out to be, because if you look at the points, it's a big point sink. Now, what I will say though is that in a game where you score points based on what you kill, if you can't kill this thing, then that's going to be trouble because you're going to have to kill the rest of your opponent's army then, right? So if this thing is like really making it hard for that to happen, and just kind of, I don't know, just buffing the enemy units and stuff like that, and acting more as a support instead of a damage dealer itself. It's not going to get into combat. It's going to stay out of combat and just support the army. I could see that being tough to deal with, but again, it's almost 500 points, guys. It's really expensive. I do think they're really good, but they're, man, they really pay a high price for it. Okay, let me know in the comments what you guys think about this though, because I may be wrong in this, but I'm looking at also the Dragon Breath, Strength 4, AP -1. I mean, that's not that bad, right? It's good, but it means your opponent is going to be really close to you, and you could win combat against these things. And you know, if it's a mage, you can possibly run them down and kill them. Depends on the unit, but I think there's clever ways to deal with that. Now, if we look at the Flame Spire Phoenix, these guys can actually be taken by themselves. That's why they don't have a plus on them. So okay, so yeah, that's what it is, right? They can be taken by themselves. They're pretty good. The Flame Spire Phoenix can actually revive. So when it dies, you roll a d6. They're kind of weak, though. They're kind of weak sauced. You can kill them pretty easily. But they're also pretty good. They have a lot of cool abilities. So we'll read this. But basically what these guys are, they're monsters that revive. On a 1 to 2, they die. On a 3 to 5, they explode into flame. Every enemy unit in contact with it suffers d6 strength 3 hits with an AP of -1 in flaming attacks. Once these hits are resolved, it also dies. So, okay. On a 6, though, the Phoenix and its rider, should it have one, are briefly consumed in a ball of flames and are immediately reborn, recovering D3 wounds. So this is, is it going to happen often? No, but it's fun. It's cool. And they're cheaper than dragons. So they're really cheap. So if I don't know, it's mostly never going to happen that it has this, but it's still kind of cool. They do have the Wake of Fire ability. It's an attack against a single unit that's not engaged. To do so, it must move over the unit. So it's kind of like a bombing run, right? And it suffers, the unit underneath suffers D6 strength 4 hits with an AP of -1 flaming attacks. Pretty cool. And as a character mount, it basically just gives +2 toughness and +3 wounds. Okay. So yeah, pretty standard for, kind of a flying mount that's on the more less durable side. These are cool. I don't think they're like super good or anything, but they're cool. That from the ashes, I mean, that could win you the game right there, rolling a 6 on that. That's crazy. And the rider, it's not just the Phoenix, it's the rider too. Okay, Frostheart Phoenix, I think probably the superior one, has a Blizzard aura that gives your enemies strike last, which is really powerful when you combine it with, high initiative stuff. It means you're always going to be striking before your opponent. And yeah, it's basically the same thing though. Has full plate armor. Does this have full plate armor? No, heavy armor, blazing plumage. So, Frostheart Phoenix, a little more durable. It also gives you more wounds and more toughness. Or no. I think just more toughness. Let's see. Yeah, just more toughness. So the Frostheart Phoenix is tougher, harder to kill, and it gives you the enemy strike last. So it just gives you a big durability boost in general to your character on Frostheart Phoenix. I think this is good. I think this kind of sets a good balance between Eagle or Griffin and Dragon. It's kind of a good middle ground. Also really cool model. That's cool, a big freaking bird. I don't know, I like birds. If you like birds too, leave a comment in the comment section. Say that you like birds like me. I really like birds. Okay, great eagles. Unfortunately, these birds are not the word, because even though they're very cheap, they're awful. They give you +1 toughness, +1 wound. They don't have any armor, by the way. They're armorless. In combat, they're getting 3 attacks. They could either do, at their base strength, which is only 4. Ugh. AP -2, or their Maw is actually multiple wounds 2 and armor bane 2. But again, you're only at strength 4. I just think these guys, they're fast, and I think that's really why you take them. I think you take them just to be fast. But here's my thing also is that you can be just as fast almost with a regular elven steed, you know? A regular elven steed will be slightly slower, won't have fly, of course, so can't move over stuff, won't have the stomp, but will be able to still attack a little bit, and is so much cheaper that I just think you go with that if you want the mobility. I don't really think these guys are that great. And alone, they're just not good. So I just don't think you take these guys in a lot of different builds. Okay, so moving on, we have the Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. The Eagle Claw, again, only 2 wounds, really low toughness. It's not going to survive long, even against, light shooting. It's 80 points. It's more expensive than the Dwarven versions. The ballistic skill is higher. It does have the repeater option, which is okay. But if you look at what it does it even show us? I don't think it shows us the rule for it. Well, we'll have to go down here and see. But I don't think it does. Let's see. Nope. We have no rules for it, so it must be in the main rulebook. I think it just does D6 attacks, if I'm not mistaken. And it's like multiple attacks D6. It's really not that great. Or maybe it's just multiple attack 6. Just straight up 6. But they're at like a really low strength. It's basically like just firing 6 crossbow bolts at it. I don't think that's worth 80 points personally. But, I don't know. Some people like them. I'm just not a big fan because I think they're just overpriced. And you can get pretty much the same thing from handmaidens and stuff like that if you want to actually, just, take off a model here and there out of ranks. And they're more durable. They're going to be more durable than the Eagle Claw. All right. Let's get down into the Elven honors. The honors are kind of just, so let's read through these because I don't really know what they do anymore. I have to be honest. They used to do different things. So High Elf Lords only, you can be a lore master. You can only be a lord to do this. You are a level 1 wizard with 1 randomly generated spell. This is awful. So already I'm just telling you guys right now, awful. It's a randomly generated spell. You can choose the type of magic, but again, it's just something where you're not going to need this. You have a level 4 wizard usually in your army anyway. You can be equipped with a Sword of Hoeth. We will check that out in just a second for no additional points. If so, they may not take additional non-magic weapons. So yeah, it's a good weapon, but that means they can't take any other, realistically, they can choose what they use, right? But it's not great. Gains Ilthamar armor, Lilith's Blessing, and Lore of Safri. I mean, I guess Lilith's Blessing is good, right? If you're a caster, but it's a randomly generated spell. You're just not going to be doing much from it. It's level 1, so it can easily be dispelled. Shadow Walker, you cannot be mounted. You basically become a, Shadow Walker kind of archer type person. You gain the Ambushers, Evasive, Fire and Flee, Move Through Cover, and Scouts. Pretty good, actually. Pretty good. But I'm not sure you want to. Again, I'm not sure you want to give this to a character. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this one. Equipped with a Bow of Avalorn. I guess you could give this to a. You know what's interesting? I guess you could give this to a Handmaiden and have the Handmaiden join the unit and make them a little bit better at shooting, but I think you want to have the Handmaiden in the back, personally. Anointed of Azurian, may be mounted on Flame, Spire, Phoenix, or Frostheart, but cannot choose any other mount options. Can be equipped with Ceremonial Halberd. Gains the Blessings of Azurian, Fear, and Witness to Destiny special rules. So you basically just become a Phoenix Guard almost. Replaces Valor of the Ages with Veteran. Okay. Not bad. Now that I think about it, I think veteran just makes it so you automatically pass. You don't have to take panic checks. So it's like kind of an upgrade from Valor of Ages. You don't have to take panic checks if models run away near you. I'll have to double check on that. Let me know in the comments if that's what it does. You have the Blood of Kalidor for 15 points. You get +1 weapon skill. Gains a dragon armor and impetuous. Oh, yuck. Yeah, you're probably not going to want this either. Again, impetuous is just not a good rule. It's okay on some units, like it's okay on units like from the Empire, you have Flagellants. It's okay on them because they're a unit that literally just wants to get stuck into the enemy and just stick there and just hold people in place and be unbreakable. But if you're using this on a flanking unit, must be mounted. Check this out, must be mounted on something. If you're using this on a flanking unit or a cav unit, this could be devastating if you charge the wrong unit. Like, just imagine your opponent baits you into charging a unit of Ironbreakers or a unit of Minotaurs or something like that, and then you charge in there and then you just get smashed, right? I mean, it's just not a good ability. It's not great. Cracian Hunter can be mounted on a white lion chair, but no others. Can be given a Cracian Greatblade. We are going to check those things out. Gains the Lion Cloak, move through cover, and stubborn. This is really good. I think this is good for 10 points. Move through cover on a character is really good. You can join lions, white lions at that point. So you're getting the same special rule. You're getting stubborn. You're getting, pretty decent attacking its range. Not the best, but it's only 10 points. So it's not terrible. The Warden of Safri, you gain the deflect shots, Ultimar armor, and killing blow special rules. I think this is easily worth 10 points right here. It cannot be mounted, but you may be equipped with Sword of Hope. I think this is great for like a noble. If you want to attach a noble or a it's no, I think it's a noble. Yeah, it's a noble. You attach a noble to a unit of swordmasters and you give them for 10 points a Warden of Safri, and all of a sudden it gets killing blow. Like, killing blow on a hero is really good. It's really good, especially in combination with other melee weapons. Maybe you don't use a Sword of Hoeth, but you use a really cool, magical item. Okay, Pure of Heart, free. And like, this is gonna be great. I don't know what this does, but it sounds funny. Unless this character is filling, all friendly units within their command range can use their leadership characteristic instead of their own. Okay. In addition, this character and any unit that is joined automatically passes panic tests. Yeah, so for something that's free, that's really good. That's really good. So here's what you do with this, right? You give this. Oh my god. I think you give this to. Maybe you just give it to your lord, right? This character in any unit is joined automatically passes panic tests, like all panic tests. I think you just give it to your lord and call it a day. Pure of Heart. Seaguard, character with. Okay, so you can only be mounted on a Lothran Skycutter. That's kind of cool because Lothran Skycutter is like epic, it's like this flying chariot. Maybe equip the warbow for no additional points. Kind of cool, but not the greatest. Gains naval discipline and rallying cry special rules. Okay. It's okay. It's free, right? So, like, it's not a big deal. But that's kind of cool. I like that. Okay. So now we have our magic weapons. The White Sword. Strength +3, AP -2, magical attacks, monster. Ooh, Monster Slayer. Fires 2 hands, strikes last. Strikes last sucks, but it can only be infantry or chariot. So it looks like it can only use it on those models, I believe. Where does it say that? Yeah, I guess that's the only weapon you could, only units you can use on, but pretty good. Pretty good so far. That's a powerful weapon. Strikes last, though, kind of sucks. So unless you're using it, so you'd really want to use this on a noble or a prince, because they have strikes first, so it cancels out. Blade of Leaping Gold. I love gold. Okay, so strength user, armor bane 2, extra attacks plus D3, magical attacks. I don't like it. Strength user means you're at most going to be striking at strength 4. That's really bad with elves because they have a low basic strength. Armor bane means you only get extra armor penetration on 6 to wound. Also not good. Extra attacks D3 is really swingy. So you could get that great extra D3 attacks, but also maybe not. I don't like it. Okay, Reaver Bow. Let's check this out. Reaver Bow is 30 inches, strength +1, so normally strength 5, magical attacks. Oh, the Reaver Bow also counts as a Bow of Avalorn. Okay, so you're getting +1 AP, and you're also getting, Armor Bane 1 on addition. This model does not suffer any modifiers for firing multiple shots. So I think if I'm not mistaken, the Bow of Avalorn. Okay, hold on. The wielder of the Reaver Bow may make a number of shooting attacks equal to their attack characteristic. Okay, that's what I'm missing here. So this is pretty good actually. So it counts as a Bow of Avalorn, has some AP values, and it makes multiple attacks, based on your attack characteristic. So on a character that has 3 attacks, it's getting 3 shots. That's pretty good. It is 40 points though. So that is something you have to think about. The Foebane, it is a Elven Blade. Okay, interesting. So it's strength user, AP nothing, magical attack. So far it doesn't look that great. Let's see its notes. When the wielder of the Foebane makes a wound roll, a roll of 4+ is always a success regardless of toughness. I think there's way better weapons in this. This kind of sucks. This is like, you're mostly wounding on 4s. Anything strength or toughness 4 or lower, you're already wounding on 4s. So this is like only good against really high toughness. And against those high toughness targets, you could just take a great weapon, Just get +2 attacks. Or +2 strength, excuse me. So I don't like this at all. The great weapon's cheaper for, better results. Terrible weapon. Terrible. Okay, magic armor. Armor of Calidor, you get a 5+ ward save against any wounds suffered, and it's full plate. Pretty decent. Pretty decent. Dragon Helm. But remember, you can get full plate for like 6 points, so you're really paying 29 points for a 5-up ward. Which, like for the dwarves, you can take 2 runes of shielding, I think they're called. Yeah, runes of shielding for 30 points. And it's the same thing. It's a 5-up ward. So this is 1 point cheaper. Dragon Helm, 10 points. Improves the armor save value by 1. In addition, has a 6-up ward save against flaming attacks. Okay, pretty good. 10 points. Not bad. To a maximum of 2 up. So yeah, you put this on, your... Oh, and it may be worn with other armor. So that's the key right there. May be worn with other armor. So maybe you take the armor of Calidor, get full plate, and you get a dragon helm. Interesting. I mean, I don't think that's the best thing to do, but it looks kind of cool. Looks like that's a cool combination. I'd have to check the rulebook for any other kind of magic items as well, but that looks pretty good. I think you can take regular magic items. Let's see. Extremely common magic items. Any item marked with an asterisk is considered to be extremely common as described in the Warhammer Old Rulebook. Okay, so you can also take those as well, most of them. I don't think dwarves can take those kind of weapons, but, elves definitely can because the elves are inferior to the dwarves. Talisman. So the Lore Master's Cloak. Let's see what this does. Oh, this was what they were talking about. Okay, for 25 points, gives you a 4+ ward save against any wounds suffered that were caused by a magic missile. I don't know. That's not really that great. That's not really super good, okay? Because, first of all, magic missiles are literally only magical attacks, like from other wizards, typically, or bound spells, so that's not super great. The Opal Amulet is a single use, gives a 2+ ward save against a single wound. Now, that is good. That is good. What did they say here? An Astro... Okay, the Opal Amulet, I guess, is something that a lot of factions can take, so that's why it has this asterisk. Pretty good against stuff like cannons, if you're investing heavily into like a dragon, you might want to take something like this to get a 2-up ward. Magical Standards, Banner of Arcane Protection gives you magic resistance -3. In addition, all units within 6 get magic resistance -1. Pretty powerful, but I don't know if you really care that much about magic resistance in a high elf army, considering you have a level 4 wizard. So I would actually say that this is kind of terrible in general. But let me know in the comments if you think I'm wrong on that. I just think 70 points is a lot to pay for this when you have a level 4 wizard flying around usually, who can also take, kind of different things. Battle Banner gives you plus D3 additional combat result points. That's really good. That is going to help your heavy, hardcore combat units win combat even harder. It is good. Lion Standard automatically passes Fear of Terror, which is also good. Banner of Valyrian gets the move through cover. I don't know if that's that great, but it's good on a unit of cavalry that doesn't have it, kind of like Silver Helms. Excuse me. Enchanted items, you have the Null Stone. All wizards within the command range suffer a -1 modifier to the casting and dispel. Awful. That first part's terrible. Let's take out the second part, because you're never going to be that close, right? In addition, during the command subphase, if they are not engaged in combat, this character may attempt to use the Null Stone by making a leadership test. If this test is passed until the start of your next turn, this character cannot be targeted by spells and is immune to the effect of any spells. Okay. This is a really good way to prevent your opponent from actually killing your High Elf, High Elf Archmage on Dragon with spells. So it's good, but it doesn't help you against range attacks. So that's still going to be, it's okay. I think that's good, but not like super good, right? Cloak of Beards, oh, 'tis a grudge. This is going to piss me off. While the Cloak of Beards causes terror, or the wearer of the Cloak of Beards causes terror. However, so unnerving is a cloak that other models cannot use the wearer's leadership. An aura of fear, let's read the lore on this. An aura of fear and anger hangs about this grisly trophy of the War of the Beard, filling allies and enemies alike with unease. That's absolutely crazy. He has a cloak made of beards, dwarven beards. That's so ridiculous. Well, what's funny is they should have had a special rules interaction where like dwarfs get hatred against it. Like I don't think so. So unnerving is a cloak that other models cannot use the wearer's leadership. This was a big missed opportunity. They should have put this as all dwarfs gain hatred against this model and the unit that it joins. Boom. I mean, that's a pretty powerful ability. You're just giving terror. So, Seed of Rebirth, 20 points, gives you 5+ regen. You're going to be taking this on your dragon or whatever. It's just 5+ regen is so strong. Sigil of Zerman, arcane item. Single-use wizard may use it instead of making a dispel attempt. If they do, the spell is automatically dispelled with no roll required. Annulian Crystal, once per turn. Upon successfully casting a spell, the bearer can choose to forget that spell and immediately generate another. Interesting. So it's a way to get rid of a terrible spell, I guess, once per turn. Kind of weird, though, I have to admit. Normally you're kind of good with your spells, but maybe you don't like one of them and you want to change it out. It's interesting. Silvery Wand knows one more spell than is normal for their level of wizardry. So, if you're level 4, you know 4 spells. If you have the Silvery Wand, you know 5 spells. It's interesting. I don't think it's that great, though. I don't think you really take this in most cases. Alright, we talked about the special rules. Let's talk about the weapons really quick. And the spells. So, Lore of Sapphire. The Hand of Cain is a combat assailment type of spell. Happens in the combat phase, I believe. A single enemy model the caster is engaged with suffers a single strength 4 with no armor saves permitted. That sucks. That's awful. Just one strength 4 hit. Terrible. It's kind of like a 50% chance to deal a wound. It's not good. Courage of Venerian. Casting value 10+. This is a big casting value, but, on level 4 wizard, it's easy. Range 15. Remains in play. While the spell is in play, target friendly unit gains the Unbreakable special rule. That's really good. If this spell is cast, the effect of any other enhancement previously cast on the target unit immediately expire, and may target a unit engaged in combat. That's really good. That's amazing. To have an unbreakable unit of High Elves that are usually going to strike first, that means you can't beat them in combat res. You have to kill every single elf. So, I like that. I think that's great on multiple different types of units. Vol's Unmaking. It's a hex. This spell can only target enemy characters. However, It may target an enemy character that is within range and the caster can draw a line of sight to, regardless of the usual rules for targeting characters. Interesting. The casting player chooses a single magical item carried by the target is immediately unmade, rendering it completely useless. The chosen magic item cannot be used for the remainder of the game. Okay. This looks really good, but it's only range 12. So it's good, it's powerful, but it has a high casting value. You're going to need a 7 plus, which on a level 4 wizard is, it's good, but only range 12. So if you're within that range, you're probably going to be, subject to dispelling. So if you're playing dwarves, you get, runes of spell breaking and stuff like that. And if you're playing another faction, your wizards can attempt to dispel. So it's good, it's powerful. It's not as good as it looks on paper. Especially when you're getting that close, right? Okay, here we go. The Armor of Ulthuan. Oh, and okay, so what do I think about the lore of Safri? It sucks. The only good one is the Courage of Anirian. Every other one is like elementalism or like another lore is going to be better for you. This is a bait. I think this is the biggest troll bait ever. If you put your unit within 12 inches of an enemy character, like your dragon within 12 inches, like you're asking for trouble. I just don't think that's worth it. Okay, we have the armory, the Bow of Avalorn, range 30, so it's a longbow, strength user, armor bane 1, magical attacks, volley fire. Where was the... Oh, I thought it had AP minus 1. Was I wrong? I guess I was wrong. So I guess it doesn't have AP minus 1. It just has armor bane 1, which is not that good. But these are the basic bows for things like Sisters of Avalorn. So I think in combination with the Handmaidens, that's still really good. Ceremonial Halberd, strength plus 1, so that's a regular halberd, AP minus 1, armor bane 1, fight in an extra rank. Okay, this is kind of cool. So this is like the halberd, the ceremonial halberd's kind of like a spear. So this is what I was missing before. It's kind of like a spear and a halberd. This is good. Yeah, this is great. I think this is good. So I think this makes Phoenix Guard a little bit more worth it because they get to fight in an extra rank and they have, the ability to, basically survive a little bit more as. Oh, this is cool too. A model wielding a ceremonial halberd cannot make. Oh, never mind. This is because of the spear rules. You can't make supporting attacks when you charge. God, excuse me. Crazy Great Blade, strength plus 2, so you're getting strength 5 or strength 6 typically. AP minus 3, requires 2 hands, strike last. Okay, it's a great weapon with AP minus 3 instead of AP minus 2. So it's a better great weapon. That's really good. AP minus 3 is good, guys. That's cleaving through full plate. That's really good. Sword of Hoeth, strength plus 2, AP minus 2, magical attacks requires 2 hands. This is actually worse than the Crazy Greatblade. I actually think White Lions might be better than Swordmasters. At least a little bit. I mean, maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's really good. I know Strikes Last sucks, but as long as you're charging, you're getting plus 1 to your initiative normally. So you're at initiative 1 normally because of Strikes Last, but then you're getting plus 1. You're going up to like initiative 4, right? When you charge. That's pretty good. I think that's really good against a lot of enemies, so. This is good too, though. I mean, having, initiative like almost 10 is like amazing as well. I guess that's it. And you have the High Elves, right? I always liked the models too. I think the High Elf models are really cool. I don't like the Spearmen so much, except for those conical helmets. That's the best part about them. But I really like the White Lions are cool. They're really cool. Their White Lion cloaks are cool, and then the Sword Masters are okay as well. The skeletons are just awful. I think the old Tomb King models are just ugly as sin. Dragons are super cool. Okay, I have so many stories of dragons just like one-shotting them with cannons, and it's sad that that's no longer the case. These are cool. I mean, look at these like sky chariots. Oh, those are so epic. Guys, those are so cool, dude. I think that's the best part about. Oh man, those are the coolest looking models. I don't care. They're literally wave serpents, guys. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the archers or anything. The spearmen are kind of lame, but I mean the white lion chariots are cool. Look at the freaking lions. Oh man, this army's cool. I think if I went back to fantasy and like actually picked up the models, I would definitely pick up dwarfs and high elves, and that those would be my two armies. What else we got? Shadow warriors are super cool. Those guys look sick. You can't look at those guys and tell me that those guys don't look cool. That's awesome. Oh, there's a close up of this thing. How cool is this thing, man? Oh, I can't get enough of this thing with a freaking eagle flying. Now, I will say though, this model looks like an absolute an absolute bitch to put together. You have to glue it. You know, there's no choice. You have to glue these little flying sticks to the model, and I'm sure they break and stuff like that. You know, actually, what I would do is I would take these sticks and literally just forget them and just replace them with metal. I would literally just put a metal rod there because those are so easily breakable. My God. Ugh. Probably horrible to put together, but they look great. They look awesome. You got your white lions, which are super cool. You got your silver helms, which are also a cool unit. I mean, you have the gems, you know, like I'm a real big fan of gems, like as an Eldar player, so I really love gems. That's also something that's on a lot of dwarf characters, which I really like. It's also a reason why I don't really like the aesthetic of a lot of Empire stuff. They just look so bad. They just look like trash. You know, like a lot of the state troops, like they just look so garbage. I like the old state troops with the poofy arms. They look kind of cool, but the newer state troop kits just look so bad. I mean, I know they're supposed to be terrible like militias and stuff that are just like they're professional soldiers, but they're not really that skilled. So they're not going to be like, you know, they're not going to be dressed in the imperial finery and stuff like that like the knights, but still. Oh, yeah. Now we get to the custodies of fantasy, the Bretonians. We'll probably eventually look at them. I just think so many people have actually just already they've already covered Bretonia, you know. So I don't know about that. I don't think I'm going to cover Bretonia. I've never liked the faction as far as the like I like the look and stuff of them. They're cool, but they're kind of like generic to me. Which is fine. But I've never been into them. I don't know. They're kind of like just too basic for me. Like it's like any kind of medieval movie you watch, that's what you see. But Empire's cool. Like the knights are cool. Like when I played Empire, I played a like knightly order army, so I had a bunch of knights and pistoliers and stuff like that. I think the pistoliers suck now, but we'll eventually review that. We'll eventually review that army as well, the Empire. But all right, everybody, that is going to be it for today's review. Thanks for watching. I know that was a long one. And I know not a lot of people watch this content because mostly I create Eldar content, but I think it's refreshing every once in a while to just look through the rules and stuff like that of Warhammer Old World, tell you what I guys think, you know, what I think about them. And next time we're going to be probably doing an 1,000 point dwarf list or a melee focused dwarf list, or perhaps we'll do a high elf list. Let me know in the comments what you guys would like to see for our next Old World content. All right, everybody, that's going to be it for today. If you want to support the channel, I have my Patreon free trials activated and you can support for absolutely free and you can join our Discord for free. If you're interested in Old World stuff, let me know. And if you join our Discord, I'll kind of create a channel for Old World content. All right, everybody, that's going to be it for today. Peace out. See you guys next time. Have a good one, everybody. See you later.